understood its importance and its implications, and have come out to support yourselves by supporting your union. These are very challenging circumstances that we face. We need to be together, we need to be united, we need to be one on this. These circumstances send a clear message that the BSTU, your union, is under attack. Circumstances that lead us to ask the question whether we have been singled out for a calculated act of vindictive, punitive transfers against our members at the Alexandra School. If we believe that we can answer that question in the affirmative, then we must ask the further question, given comments made by those in authority, whether these punitive transfers are over. We have good reason to believe that they are not, and therefore we are left to wonder which one of us will be the next victim. Are we correct in seeing that the behavior of the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development is callous and therefore reprehensible? We know the background. We know the years of interminable suffering of our colleagues at the hands of a principal found culpable of a myriad of offenses meted out to teachers, board members, support staff, students, and parents at the school. Those findings of the King Report were mirrored in that of the Commission of Inquiry. We know of a Ministry of Education that by their inaction enabled such behaviors and clearly demonstrated both an unwillingness and an inability to rein in that principle. They therefore knowingly allowed the situation to fester, grow, and rot at that school, to the detriment of all of those who worked and learned there, and whom they had the statutory and moral obligation to protect. Having created that quote-unquote monster of a situation, the Ministry of Education is now looking to add fuel to the flames by attempting to wreak further havoc on the children of that school and on the professional and personal lives of its employees there through their transfers. Let us quickly examine the current situation. With the setting up of a Commission of Inquiry, the members of staff at the Alexandra School were invited to provide witness statements. Some of them exercised their democratic right to do so and provided witness statements at the Commission of Inquiry. However, every single member of the BSTU who either gave written or verbal statements to the Commission of Inquiry, save one person, has been transferred. Is that a coincidence? You decide. Is it also a coincidence that the majority of our members have been transferred to newer secondary or BUT schools, where the numbers of BSTU members are very small, and therefore the influence of the BST in those schools not as significant as it could be? Do you think that the fact that Alexandria is no longer a BSTU stronghold is a coincidence? Are you beginning to think union busting and calculated attempts to weaken and derail the BSTU? Why such behavior, you may ask? When last have you heard of any other teachers' union in this country publicly criticizing anything that this present administration has done in relation to education? When last have you heard them stand up for the rights of teachers in this country? Are the answers getting any clearer for you? The BSTU has always accepted the authority of the Public Service Commission to transfer teachers. That is indisputable. We cannot question that. However, what we question is the unprecedented scale and manner of these present transfers. This situation has serious trade union and professional implications. And so we question the reasons for the method and the reasonableness of the transfers. Were they attempting to act on the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry? Because if they were, they neither followed its recommendations in relation to Mr. Boone's or the other teachers who are our members, except for the deputy principal of the school. The Commission of Inquiry did not recommend that Mr. Boone's be put in any other school in this country. They recommended that he be put in another government department. They did not recommend that any of our members that have been transferred, save the deputy principal, be transferred out of Alexandra School. What are they acting on? How could they seek to transfer about 20 teachers, including almost all of the management team, and do so in the middle of the school year? Where is the reasonableness of that action for both students and teachers alike? How could the ministry go against its own transfer policy, as documented by Mr. Michael Luke in his publication, Personnel Management in the Teaching Service? And that was a document written based on established procedure in the Ministry of Education. In that document, it states, quote, "It has been agreed that teachers should be given adequate notice in relation to transfers, and that such transfers shall not be seen as punitive. The standard practice, which the BUT admits that they agreed to with the Ministry of Education, is 1 term's notice for the transfer of a principal and 6 weeks for a teacher. Curiously, while acknowledging this breach of an agreement that they made with the ministry, the BUT still advised its members to proceed to the schools to which they had been transferred. If the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry are not influencing the actions of those in authority, then on what basis are they acting? Is it simply an attempt to punish? Are those the quote-unquote consequences that preceded the quote-unquote further consequences to which the Minister of Education alluded if the teachers did not turn up to their new schools? What are they being punished for? In attempting to address our concerns and have our questions answered, the BSTU has taken a number of steps since our members received their transfer letters. We have written to the ministry twice requesting meetings with them. But I have to add here that it is instructive to know that we had to write twice and request meetings. But at a meeting of SETUSA, both BAPS and the BUT said that they had been invited by the said Ministry of Education to attend a meeting, or rather separate meetings, to discuss these transfers. They were invited, but the BSTU had to write and request. Having been granted the meetings, at both meetings, they indicated an unwillingness to answer any questions and stated simply their intention to listen to our concerns. They have demonstrated a lack of understanding of their professional and moral obligations and responsibility to meet with and have a productive, mutually respectful meeting with us. Instead, they have attempted to disrespect us by their approach and attitude, and further, by their attempts to determine our delegation at those meetings by efforts both to deny us the representation of our legal counsel and by further efforts to restrict the attendance at the second meeting of the affected Alexandria teachers. Of course, we had to make them aware of the fact that nobody can determine the union's delegation at any meeting that we attend with them. It has always been our policy to take the persons that we're representing for transparency. Persons can determine and see for themselves the quality of representation that we provide. We have also written 2 letters to the CPO asking for a meeting. We have written 3 letters to the Prime Minister asking for a meeting. We have written 2 and had a meeting with SETUSA. We have written to the PS Ministry of the Civil Service and the Chief Labor Officer. We have also sought international support by writing to Education International and the Caribbean Union of Teachers asking for their support. We are yet to understand why persons are hesitant to meet with us. Why the CPO and/or the Public Service Commission have so far not set a date for a meeting. Besides the 2 letters, I have said on numerous occasions in the media that we are seeking a meeting. If the PM wants, as he stated, the university graduates involved to come to a resolution, then why are they not acting in accordance with his wishes by facilitating the prerequisite forum to achieve resolution? Again, we must point out the discriminatory treatment against the BSTU because the CPO has met with Mr. Booms' representative. Mr. Booms is one person in this whole matter. We are representing almost 60 persons directly involved. The CPO meets with the representative of one person and refuses to meet with the representatives of the majority of persons involved in this transfer process. Today, we have some serious issues to address. The situation cannot be allowed to remain as is because of the implications, since 1, the existing situation will now form the standard procedure for the manner in which transfers are enacted. If we allow this to set a precedent, our goose is cooked. The effect of these transfers would be 1, essentially to stifle opposition to the Ministry of Education, since these transfers are clearly recognized by all to be a punitive action that has been directed at teachers who attempted to secure a peaceful, non-abusive, and productive work environment for themselves. And they did this by using the lawful and legitimate trade union methods available to them. The teachers did nothing wrong. And on page 81 of the Commission of Inquiry, the report said exactly that they have not been found guilty of any breaches of legislation or regulations. The present circumstances provide a clear example of union busting of the BSTU in an effort to weaken this union and diminish its effectiveness as a trade union. If this situation persists, the potential clearly exists for deterioration in the relationship between the BSTU and the agents of the employer. 5, the status of teaching as a profession will now be devalued with the accompanying problems of attracting and retaining teachers who wants to come into an environment where at a moment's notice, at the drop of a hat, they can pick you up as a teacher, remove you from your place of work and put you into another. Teaching is not a desk job. We do not sit down and shuffle papers. People know of the dynamic nature of teaching, of the relationships built, of school culture, of school climate. You don't just get up and transfer teachers like that and expect things to work as normal. The additional stress will be placed on teachers as they attempt to perform what are, in the circumstances, unreasonable duties. 7, there are additional concerns and stresses on students, and these will result as they attempt to meet the difficult burdens of external exams in already trying circumstances. I think at Alexandra School, we attempted to work out the permutations. With so many new teachers, let us say an average 5th form student doing 5 subjects now has potentially 5 new teachers to deal with at this point in time. Multiply that by over 100 persons in each year group, because the 4 formers are also doing exams as well, some of them. And you understand the unreasonableness of this action. You understand that this action had to be carried out by persons who have no first-hand knowledge of how secondary schools really operate. Just think about it. And 5 subjects, as you know, at a school like Alexandra, would be considered a modest number of subjects. And so the children at this sensitive and crucial point in time are being exposed to a number of new staff members, unaccustomed to them as they are to those teachers. Some of them forced to teach subjects that they know very little about or nothing about. I understand that the French teacher, for example, who is truly only a Spanish teacher, has simply been sitting in the classes in the upper school, the exam classes, where he's supposed to teach French. He cannot teach French. He does not speak French. And we know the travesty in relation to the technical drawing teacher and what has happened at Alexandra vis-a-vis what has happened at Princess Margaret. The social studies teacher as well knows nothing about social studies, doesn't begin to know where to start to help the students with their SPAs, and is at a loss. And all of this from persons who claim and hypocritically state that they have the interests of the students at heart. It's a good thing that they do. We have to address an employer, in this case the government, who has consistently ignored the complaints from workers who have repeatedly and legitimately complained about breaches of rights and agreements, who chooses manipulation rather than consultation to resolve these problems, and who resorts to dictatorial application of statutory powers to the detriment of workers. This is dictatorial behavior. As I said before, this is not Nazi Germany. And no trade union which values the preservation of democratic principles and a harmonious industrial relations climate can allow this precedent to go without challenge. It would throw us back to pre-1937. There have been too many battles fought and won that we are having to fight over and over and over, because persons have no real commitment to industrial relations, and they use the term only to their advantage. The mass transfer showed that your current assignment can, any one of you, in the application of the law, be severed overnight, without consultation, without adequate notice, without intrinsically justifiable pedagogical and professional reasons, without consideration of the values of your institutional loyalty. As a matter of fact, nowadays, being a past student of the school at which you work is a bad thing. Nowadays, having worked for over 20 years at one school and having given your blood, sweat, and tears to that school is now perceived as a bad thing. Your transfers can be done without consideration of the dignity of the human person. If we are not successful in this present exercise, we will find ourselves in a serious situation. There will be no redress for all of the things I've already mentioned. The members of the BSTU must realize that if we let this go, and then we set the precedent, that any shop steward can be removed for punitive reasons in this country. There are also serious implications for the 20 or so persons still teaching under the Memorandum of Understanding, who would then lose that entitlement not to be transferred without their consent. We know only too well that as soon as you erode one entitlement, then it is only a matter of time before all the others follow. I need to clarify one thing here, however. In order to avoid yet another battle, and in order to avoid stones being thrown at us, some of our members have turned up for work in the new working environments. This must not be seen as weakness or surrender. It has been part of this tactical strategy that we employed, and we, before they turned up for work, wrote the Chief Personnel Officer as a union, retaining their rights, and each of those persons also wrote a letter to the CPO indicating that the matter was in the hands of their union and they were retaining all of their rights while it was being addressed. It does not, I want to repeat here, it does not compromise our position in any way. It simply had to be done to protect those particular workers in instances where the union could not offer adequate protection of them. The BSTU is demanding to be treated with the respect that it deserves. We have the right to expect, as a registered and legitimate trade union in this country, that if we ask any agent of the employer for a meeting, they should recognize their obligation for us to be granted such. There are many thinkers in our society who recognize the value of our cause and our call. There has been open support for the BSTU in this matter from, among other persons, Dr. George Bell, whom we are expecting to come and say a few words to us here today. Is he here yet? Dr. Bell, are you here? Well, he said he couldn't get here before 2 o'clock. It's just 2:05. Messrs. Elworth Young, Peter Wickham, Ralph Jenner,